Hi everyone, I'm Kerri Petrunic, your evolutionary astrologer. Today I'm going to talk about the year ahead, 2023. So in every year there are major astrological events that represent opportunities for growth, for our evolution into wiser and more compassionate human beings. In looking ahead to 2023, I started with midnight on New Year's Day. What really stood out at the very first moment of 2023 was Pluto and Venus sitting on the exact same degree. In the quiet midnight hour of 2023, the start of 2023, Pluto and Venus cozy up, reminding us of something important. Now, Pluto spent over a decade in Capricorn. Its passage through Capricorn has been a wake-up call to humanity to grow in our capacity for emotional and spiritual maturity, to act in integrity with responsibility and accountability. Now, we've seen this call play out in a backlash against corruption in our societal systems of government in recent years. What many fail to realize is that they are us. It won't be until all of us develop the emotional and spiritual maturity to act in integrity, to be responsible and accountable in our relationships to ourselves, to others, to the world, to humanity, that we will see they start to act with honesty and integrity, responsibility and accountability. Now, all the events in recent years have just been a catalyst to wake us up to our potential for maturity and integrity, both personally and collectively. Now, Venus is the planet of relating to self and others. Pluto and Venus in Capricorn create an intense need for accountability and integrity in relating. Now, Pluto spent, like I said, many years in Capricorn. And every year around this time, it has teamed up with Venus in Capricorn on various other degrees. But starting out the new year with this conjunction on this degree, just before Pluto moves into Aquarius, seems significant enough to take note. What happens when we don't relate to ourselves and others with integrity, accountability, emotional, and spiritual maturity? We create something other than harmony, which is the purpose of our relating, to create balance within and without. Now, when we create something less, we reap the fallout of intense betrayal, emotional wounds, feelings of powerlessness and vulnerability. We've all seen enough of the negative impact of anything less than honesty, integrity, responsibility, and accountability in all of our relating, and not just to others, but to ourselves. We've created a deep sense of disharmony within and without. But this New Year's chart offers us some help to answer the call of Pluto and Capricorn before it hearkens us with another call in a couple of months when it moves into Aquarius. Now, Mercury will start out the year conjunct Pluto and Venus on the degree of withdrawing into the inner sanctuary to commune with the inner voice of guidance, your inner divine wisdom. Now, we could interpret this as an important element to relating, to communicating. When we look at the rest of the year, we can see that if we take one thing from this start to New Year's 2023, it is this: in all your relating, whether to self, others, your family, the community, the world, humanity, you must sink beneath the surface noise and discover the inner voice of divine guidance, that voice that speaks from the unity of wisdom and compassion. Wisdom without compassion is cold. Compassion without wisdom is ineffective. We need both, and we need both if we're going to be heard, if we're going to hear others, if we're going to be able to accomplish what we're called to do this year. Now, if we're to create harmony in our communities, the community within us, all our parts, inner parts relating in harmony, the community of family, the community at large, the community of life on this planet, then we're going to need to act in integrity in the unity of wisdom and compassion within. So this is going to require effort on our part. A good meditation practice will help to develop the practice of going within that will allow you to automatically retreat to the sacred within in any situation. Without this kind of practice, we're likely to respond on a surface level, on an egoic level, on an appearance level, without sufficient understanding, without the unity of wisdom and compassion. Another way to say this, and my teacher used to always say this to us, is to let love have you so that others can have love. This is the year to do that. To let love have you so completely that love is working through you as you. Now, this is not a trite, let's make this the year of world peace or one love, a universal brotherhood, and then we all embrace and live happily ever after. This is a serious commitment, a serious inner commitment that must be made within each of us. But what is the alternative to this? What is the alternative? So why is this so important in 2023? Well, we're going to start the year off with Jupiter in Aries, ruled by an out-of-bounds Mars. Think wild, explosive reactions. If we're not able to return to the sacred within, to let love have us in all our relationships, to act from a place of wholeness and integrity. So, especially if we're reacting to what we perceive as a crisis. To add to this, Chiron's conjunct Jupiter, also ruled by this out-of-bounds Mars. If we feel wounded personally and collectively, the reaction could be explosive, unless we bring some sort of levity to it. Now, Jupiter, levity is an archetype of Jupiter. Now, I mean more than humor when I say levity. Oh, that is a part of the Jupiter archetype of levity. We need to lighten up, and we do this by following that inner guidance of that sacred place within, that silence and stillness within, where wisdom and compassion arise from, where we're one with unconditional love. That will allow us to sufficiently respond with levity, to lighten the weight of responsibility, or what we perceive as the weight of responsibility. The extent that we feel lighter, that we feel liberated, is the extent to which we have accepted responsibility and accountability, to the extent that we're acting in integrity. To live in this kind of integrity, can you see how this might lighten your load? So now, the planets will continue to travel through the zodiac, but this chart cast on New Year's, the first minute of 2023, provides us with kind of a baseline response to life, to ourselves, to each other, to our families, to our communities, to other cultures, to other countries, to humanity as a whole. How are you creating harmony within yourself, within your family, your community, your society, within the world? Start within yourself and work your way out. And a really good meditation or spiritual practice can help with that. For assistance in creating harmony within, an astrology reading or a sound healing session can bring you into balance, attunement, and harmony with yourself, others, life, and the divine. But use what works for you. Find something that works for you. There's not one path to this. There are many. So find something that works with you, that resonates with you. The big event of the year is Pluto's move into Aquarius. Pluto represents our attraction to growth and our desires to evolve into ever higher levels of consciousness. But at the same time, it symbolizes our kind of resistance or repulsion to change. So the reason we don't like change is that it necessarily requires the pattern of our lives to be disrupted. That means chaos. And if you'd like to know more about that, I am offering a workshop in January that will allow you to have a different relationship to chaos, allowing change and evolution to happen without resistance. Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008. So this was an evolutionary opportunity for us to move into greater emotional and spiritual integrity, personally and collectively. If enough people manage this leap in evolution, it would be reflected in our societal systems. For example, an honest and responsible government. Now, we can see over the course of the last few years, as Saturn and Jupiter joined Pluto in 2020, that areas of lack of integrity have been kind of highlighted in humanity's personal and collective structures. Pluto's set to move into Aquarius on March 23rd. It's going to back up into Capricorn a couple of times this year, June to January 2024, and next year, September 24 to November, before it moves permanently into Aquarius in November 2024. Now, it's going to remain in Aquarius then until March 8th, 2043, when it moves back into Pisces, until September 1st, when it backs into Aquarius again, and then into Pisces, January 19th, 2044. So it's going to be shuffling around a lot, giving us a lot of opportunities to kind of move within these archetypes of Capricorn and Aquarius, which are both calling us to something higher in our societal structures, in our community, our human community. So just before Pluto moves into Aquarius, Saturn's going to move into Pisces, March 7th to May 25th. And then it's going to move into Aries and back into Pisces August 31st. So it's going to remain there until February 13th, 2026. So Jupiter also makes a surprising early move. Usually spends a year in a sign, but it's going to move into Taurus on May 16th after spending only a few months in Aries since December 20th. So we can expect a strong desire to push forward in the first part of 2023, but we want to do this carefully, not impulsively. The big event of 2022 that I talked a lot about was that Uranus North Node conjunction. We start 2023 with this conjunction still in place, but within only a month, the energy gets much weaker. So by March, the North Node and Uranus are parting ways after almost a year of liberating new growth in our lives. At the same time, Jupiter moves into a closer conjunction with Chiron and Aries. So the spring of 2023 is going to be a big push for growth. And if we're aligned with that sacred part of us, or to say it another way, we've let love have us, this will bring tremendous healing energy into the world. But if we respond to this transit unconsciously, as many will, we could see the wounded part of us that feels righteous in our anger and justified in impulsive certainty, reacting in less than harmonious ways to the conditions of our lives. Again, this is why a meditation or spiritual practice is so helpful. By the time Pluto moves into Aquarius, Jupiter and Chiron will have amped up our sense of righteousness. If we're operating on something less than unconditional love, or less than the unity of wisdom and compassion, this kind of certainty can be dangerous. So beginning at the end of February, Pluto begins to square the nodal axis out of sign. By the time it moves into Aquarius, it forms a tight, fixed square to the nodal axis. This is a crucial point for humanity. Wherever Pluto's moving, it's like a big wrecking ball, dismantling conditioning that impedes our evolutionary growth. In Capricorn, it was the call to evolve into an emotional and spiritual maturity that allows us to align the inner and the outer, to act in the world in integrity, wholeness, responsible, accountable. We saw the wrecking ball take a huge swing when other planets like Saturn and Jupiter joined Pluto and Capricorn in 2020. That conjunction began a 33-year cycle that will end with Pluto, South Node, and Saturn in Pisces in 2053. Now, to put this in perspective, the previous cycle of Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn was in Libra in the early 80s. And this saw AIDS as the catalyst to evolution. Only this time in Libra, we were evolving in the area of relationships. So if you look at that cycle, which lasted 40 years, Pluto and Saturn is a 30 to 40-year cycle, we can remember the initial wrecking ball coming through as HIV/AIDS. It was tragic. It was terrifying. Pluto's cataclysmic wrecking ball through the sign of relationships, Libra, brought homosexuality out of the closet and forced us personally and collectively to address collective issues around relationships, around outdated and outmoded conditioning. It forced us to acknowledge that we needed to evolve with regards to our ideas about relationships and love. 40 years later, we have evolved. We still have a long way to go, but that 40-year cycle saw significant evolutionary growth in the area of relationships and our ability to embrace all relationships, to understand that there are many ways to love and be loved and many ways to be in a loving relationship. So Pluto effectively dismantled outmoded conditioning. It took the wrecking ball to outdated ideas and ways of viewing love and relationships. So from this perspective, we can look at that cycle of Pluto and Saturn that began in 2020 with a new understanding. The current cycle that saw COVID as the catalyst for growth, we will see evolution in the area of personal and collective integrity, honesty, and accountability. And that change starts with us as individuals. We have to be careful here. This wrecking ball is not a punishment. It is a necessary dismantling of outdated conditioning. In the cycle of Pluto and Saturn in Libra, it was dismantling the outdated conditioning that said love can only look a certain way. In this cycle, COVID was the catalyst, the wrecking ball that came through in 2020 in Capricorn to decondition how we organize and structure our society. But this isn't just about government. We are the government. This has to happen on a personal level first. We are all called to grow up in this cycle, to start acting with integrity, responsibility, accountability, to be self-disciplined in these efforts towards self-mastery. We can only hope that in 30 years, this cycle will see the results of our self-mastery in our societal structures, in our governments, in our healthcare systems, in our education systems, because we answered the call individually to self-mastery, to emotional and spiritual maturity, to integrity. So what we do now will directly impact how our social structures will look in 30 years. So can we answer that call? Now, Pluto and Aquarius furthers that call. It will take the wrecking ball to outdated conditioning in our society, in humanity, in our vision for humanity. It will take the wrecking ball to ideas about individuality, about groupthink, about belonging. It will take the wrecking ball to ideas of what society should look like. It will take the wrecking ball to the rules of society that are no longer necessary or beneficial. It will take the wrecking ball to technology, to science. Pluto and Aquarius may see revolution, both individually and collectively, but we want to be careful here. Aquarius is not a rebel without a cause. It is the true individual, unafraid to be authentic, but at the same time aware of being a part of the whole and contributing as such. So where Aquarius sits in your chart is the area of life where Pluto's going to be bringing the wrecking ball. It is where you're going to want to look at how you individuate in this area. How do you belong in this area of your life? How do you stand up and be yourself in this area? How do you speak the truth in this area of your life? Is there a fear of not belonging if you were to speak the truth in this area of your life? Does this fear drive you to betray yourself or tell the truth? Do you recognize that your individuality contributes to the whole in this area of your life? Can you assert your individuality in a way that does not interfere with another's rights, but contributes to their well-being? So with this energy of Pluto and Aquarius and Jupiter conjunct Chiron and Aries, there could be some very reactive energy if we're not consciously aware of how current events are opportunities to evolve. Mars moves into Cancer in the spring, and the warrior will be emotionally sensitive, ruling Chiron and Aries. So if we see crisis, the wrecking ball, as a problem instead of a catalyst for growth, an opportunity for growth, we could see fringe groups revolt in righteous indignation. We could see disassociation rip the unity of wisdom and compassion apart. And that would make the world a colder place, a more intolerant place. Or we could see the world become a friendlier place, in which we can follow our own unique individual desires in a mutually supportive environment. The choice is ours. There will be a lot of scientific technical advances with Pluto and Aquarius, and our ability to align with our inner voice of wisdom and compassion, our self-mastery within our use of those scientific technological advancements. Our ability to stand with truth will determine how we use those advancements, which is really important. It's a crucial time for us to look at that. So looking at the transits this year made me think of that Bob Marley song, One Love. Now, this song makes me think of the message of love, inclusion, unity, oneness, acceptance. What's interesting about this song is that it was written during a period of intense social oppression. So if 2023 had a theme song, this one seems perfect. It is the hope that even during times of confusion, hopelessness, crisis, fear, we can come together and be all right. So how do we do that? First, we must be mindful of the intense energy that can happen when we are, well, not mindful. Mindful practices are not about being blissed out, feeling peaceful, although that's a really nice side effect. They're practice. They're practice for times of crisis, times of fear, times of overwhelm. It is too easy to panic or be reactive when things are not going as we would like, or when they are flat out miserable and scary. When we have a mindfulness practice, we can tend to our emotions without allowing them to make things worse. If you don't have a practice, start now. Whatever that looks like for you, yoga, meditation, even fishing, as long as you are consciously aware that you're practicing going within, finding the silence and stillness within, whatever helps you tap into that inner place of silence and stillness within, the unconditional love that you are, so that you can access it when you're off the meditation cushion or the yoga mat, or you're no longer standing in the river listening to the swish, swish of the fly rod. So on July 17th, the nodes are going to go into Libra and Aries. They're going to join Chiron and Aries and square Pluto and Capricorn exactly. Now, the moon's nodes represent our path of growth. The south node, our karmic past, which arises for resolution, and the north node, a point of growth that will allow us to fully integrate the nodal axis and evolve. Now, the south node in Libra, like our Venus-Pluto conjunction, reminds us that our ability to relate is the basis for harmony and balance. And it starts with our ability to relate to self, to the source energy that created us. From there, we relate to others, to our environment, to family, to community, to the world. If we cannot relate to ourselves in the unity of wisdom and compassion, in the wholeness of integrity, then how are we going to relate to everyone and everything else in the unity of wisdom and compassion with integrity? The North Node in Aries takes this ability to relate in the unity of wisdom and compassion and allows us to be assertive, decisive in our response to life, to be able to reach out in self-discovery, to follow our true desires in a way that leads to self-realization, the ability to know who we are in truth and contribute to the collective accordingly. But what if we're unable to relate to self and others in the unity of wisdom and compassion? What happens then? Our desires become a distortion of our true desires. Our life decisions are a reflection of something less than truth, and we create more disharmony within and without. Pluto squaring on the last degree of Capricorn suggests the power to get a lot done if we're aligned in our integrity, whole and undivided in our self-mastery. However, if we're split, we're not relating well to the community of parts within and without, operating on something less than wisdom and compassion, we could see a great deal of unresolved tension within and without. We could see ourselves and others reacting to life from old wounds and resentments, trying to get things done in an unbalanced way, either overly focused on fitting in, people pleasing, or aggressively dominating or revolting without concern or care for others. We want to bring these polarities into balance, and that starts within, balancing the inner polarities. Now, how do we do that? Again, I keep coming back to spiritual practice, meditation, healing modalities. Find those that work for you. That allow you to come into harmony and balance, that allow you to hear the inner voice of wisdom and compassion, that allow you to come into your wholeness in integrity. Integrity is just acting in the world in alignment with what's true inside you. Where Pluto squares and nodes is happening in your chart, this is the area of your life that might need a little help integrating. So the Pluto and the nodes are key this year at this juncture. We all know exactly what to do most of the time. We all know what it would look like to be in our full integrity, to be honest, to be responsible, accountable, to be emotionally and spiritually mature. At the crucial moments, then, why do we do something less than? We may want to seek help with that answer, but generally it lies in fear. Fear that if we do, we'll be outcast or hurt or judged or unlovable. As Chiron and the North Node move closer together over the summer, we're going to want to address these wounded parts of us, to reassure them that we needn't fear inner balance, standing with truth, speaking our truth, being honest, acting in integrity, because even if it's not met well at that time, we will discover more love, more of a sense of belonging, because we're no longer split within. And according to the law of correspondence, we will naturally experience less of a split in the world, in our relationships, if we are feeling more integrated within. So we want to be gentle with these parts, take them by the hand, reassure them. Self-mastery isn't a teacher standing over you with a ruler. It is a warm coaxing, a warm, gentle coaxing to those parts that are afraid or feel unloved, to come into the light, to share in the harmony, balance, love, joy, and peace that you are. Over the summer, Jupiter and Uranus move closer together, and Mars squares off in Leo with Uranus and Taurus. Watch for big, shocking events, personally and collectively. And don't be stubborn about seeing them as problems instead of opportunities for growth. If we're growing and evolving as we're being called to, these events may be consciously created to be a pleasant surprise. If we're unconscious and resisting growth, they may seem shocking and unwelcome. Lightning bolts that seem to hit out of the blue. No matter how they show up, they're opportunities for big growth this year. Uranus rules Pluto and Aquarius. And even though Pluto will have moved back into Capricorn as Uranus and Jupiter start moving closer together, Uranus is preparing us. So prepare for surprises. In the fall, Mars joins the South Node, opposing Chiron, Eris, and the North Node in Aries. Old wounds could trigger the warrior who, if feeling justified in old wounds and a sense of needing things to be fair, could react aggressively, or worse yet, indecisively, torn between impulse and awareness. We're going to finish this year off with Pluto back on that degree of Capricorn. We will have gained some understanding in 2023, not just some insight or knowledge, but a deeper understanding of one love. Will it be enough to keep us moving into harmony with ourselves, with each other, with the world? Only you have the answer to that. Only I have the answer to that. We can't sit around waiting for them to do it. This is the year to let love have you so that others can have love. Love working through you as you. And it starts with coming back into harmony, all parts working in balance, attuned to a higher vibration. We get there by becoming whole, which means acting in integrity with responsibility. An odd thing starts to happen when we do that. We feel lighter, freer, and suddenly the world, others, life itself feels suspiciously like one love. One day we may remember 2023 as the year that we made the shift to one love. I hope it's a wonderful year for you. I will be back again lots this year with moon updates, with astrological updates, with some sound healing, some meditations to help you through 2023. So hit like and subscribe if you don't want to miss any of that. There'll be lots of support for you this year. Have a good year, everyone. Bye.